In the House, it's John Read, John's House of Representative Chairman of Appropriation out of Jackson County, District 112. Good morning, John. It's good seeing you, my man. How are you?
All right. Good to see you, Paul. Thank you for having me this early in the morning. I appreciate it.
Thank you for getting up this early in the morning and coming down. I appreciate that, especially in this weather.
Well, I have a message for you from a roommate of mine. Said he's disappointed you hadn't called him to come on your show.
Was that Richard?
You got it. See there, look, you
Richard.
even
No,
knew who I was talking about.
Well, I do know who you're talking about, and it infuriates me because I've called him 2 or 3 times. I haven't called him personally, but Alex, our producer, has checked with him. So, I'll fully expect him to be on by at least the first part of next week.
Well,
I'll give him Monday because I understand that's drive time.
Well, I'll relay the message to you. I'm just a messenger on this deal now.
I knew something was funny because he's going over on these and doing these interviews at these far-fetched little thrifty nickels, trying to find a place to get the word out. And I thought, why would he do that? So now that just apparently the phone didn't work. Maybe we have the wrong number. I'll double check.
Well, we'll have to do a little deep dive into that.
I don't want to get Richard upset there, or the whole coast for that matter. Man, there's so many things to talk about. Here's a story from AP. Mississippi legislators had a light workout or workload. It says here first 2 weeks of their 3-month session. Well, I'm not sure if that's true or not, but they're about to get busy debating proposals that could affect health care, voting rights, and other issues. Yesterday was the deadline to file general bills. House and Senate committee face a January 31st deadline to consider bills filed in their own chamber. So now, from this point out, no other bills can be filed, right?
General bills, yes. That's correct.
Now, there are other bills that are not defined.
Well, you
general.
got your appropriation and stuff like that we will be dealing with as we go. But the general bills will be, like I said, yesterday was the deadline. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure the speaker, when he walked in his office this morning, had a pile on his desk that he has to assign to committees, and then the committees will start their action this week, working on trying to see if they can get them out of committee or get them to the floor so we can act on them.
Then the next cut sounds like a TV show, but the next cut will be February 9th, and they have got to survive a deadline for consideration in the full House and Senate. Is that right?
That is correct.
On the 9th of February, which will be here before you know it. So.
And then we send ours to them, and they send theirs to ours. Mm-hmm. We start the process again.
I don't know if you wrote anything down, but just give us a little bit of a view on how we're looking here as far as the revenue is concerned and where we are. Well,
let me give you a little spew on revenues. Mm-hmm. Current year revenues. The current revenue estimate was $6.9 billion. As of the 31st of December, we were $425 million above estimate. So that looks good. And now for the next year.
Wait a minute. Let me ask you this because people will be asking. John, is this with some federal dollars in there?
No, this is us. This is general fund.
We are $429 million above the estimate
of general funds month. Now you got to realize we have another 4 or 5 months to go, and if we can maintain, we're going to be. It looks like a lusty number, but the bottom could fall out at any month, and we could be. Scrambling, but right now we're looking good. The state's looking good. We had a carryover from last year also, and then there's some ARPA monies that we'll talk about later on.
Okay, but we don't see. When will we start seeing? I'll let you get to the other numbers too. When will we start seeing some of the cuts put forth in income taxes that will be reflected in the general revenue? When will we start seeing that?
Well, that's going to go towards the end of the session with the appropriation finance. Those are going to be weighed. I was looking over the tax. We did the tax bill, mm-hmm. And we've eliminated. We eliminated franchise. We eliminated inventory. We've eliminated the 4%. Now we're moving to 5%, and it's going to be over a 4-year phase out. which would have been a total of around $524 million over that period, not just all at once. So right now, that's, like I said, we've gone through the 4 and the franchise and the 3%. So now we're going to have to just kind of, I think we're going to, there's different bills from different areas of how much they want to reduce the 5%. So until the end of the session, that's going to be up in the air. Okay.
All right, so let's get to the rest of the numbers before this break comes up, and we'll get into other stuff. But the rest of the numbers that you have, are we still about $4 billion to the surplus?
Well, you had a carryover from last. Now, if you know, there again, what are you going to include? We had a carryover from some working cash.
Yeah.
And if this continues at that flow we're doing, that could be $1 billion. Then we have some ARPA monies left. So until we get further into the session, everybody says, well, why do you wait? Why do you wait? Well, you have to. You're doing guesstimations, and you want to get the best number you can. So that's why we kind of wait this thing out and try to get February and March's number so we can see, do a better guesstimation. And so that's something that people, I think, have trouble grasping. This is not.
I think being fiscally responsible to see what the pattern's going to be.
Yeah.
I think most people would understand that.
Yes, and also we're going to be dealing with a little less money this year because we've eliminated things like when the Republicans took over, their big push was no one-time money for reoccurring expenses, and so the 24 budget, we're looking at about a $2 billion less decrease, and it's all because we reduction of the COVID funds, removal of the reoccurring expense, and there's Gulf Coast restoration and some enhancement funds. So we're taking the one-time monies out of the formula and trying to go on what we're actually taking in.
What you sound to be as the appropriation chair of the House, you sound very cautious that we can do this, but we need to do it in steps, is what I'm reading from you. And I guess in the back of your mind also, because we know we're going to step down on some of the revenue from the giving it back to the people, you have to support those increase in dollars for things like teachers' pay.
Well, now I have not heard any rumblings from the education committee. I don't know what's coming out of there. I'm sure there's going to be. I know there's been a push for the truants officers and some fringe of the education. I have not heard anything major coming as far as pay raises or anything at this time. Now, like I said, we got a couple more months to go.
Yeah, well, but I'm talking about we've already had pay raises we've given to the teachers.
Oh,
so
yes.
those are recurring and have to be put in there.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well,
right.
we took that into consideration when those were passed. Right. Yes.
If you look as House Education Chair, House Appropriation Chairman John, if you look at some of the needs that are just out there calling, probably louder than others, there would have to be mental health. I'm sure prison situation is one. The court system is another. There are several things out there that we need to do, but I'm not sure how much attention one or the other is going to get as far as the session's concerned. Your thoughts?
Well,
where do we put some of this money if we decided to do that?
ARPA money, we put $80 million in corrections. We got mental health. We put a large chunk of money in mental health. And also the Child Protection Service. Those are the ones where the federal government was kind of looking into. So we tried to shore those up. And we're always, mental health and corrections are always in need. We're looking at some maybe deficits for correction. I just got one, I think, on my desk last week.
Let's talk about that when we come back here. PERS is another big subject out there. Some people say PERS is in trouble. I want you to speak to PERS from your perspective as the chairman of House Appropriations, John Read, back one. All right, let's talk about PERS here because there are a lot of rumblings about the vulnerability of PERS at this time. And what's your take on this?
Well, the only thing I can tell you is I sit as an ex officio member of that committee, and they've been wrestling with it. And their recommendation coming from across the street is to raise employers' contributions from 17.4 to 22.4 or 5% increase. Now, what does that mean? That means about a $265 million increase in state agencies. Example, IHL, community colleges, and K-12 education. Also, that means $80 million increase to counties, municipalities, and other entities that are members of the system. So now here is the thing that was recommended, but there was not a plan or a solution how to do this. Mm-hmm. And so this will be, I'm sure this is something that's going to be looked at. Now, this is definitely something that needs to be addressed. I don't want to holler chicken little, but I mean, it's something that we need to be looking at.
So we're talking about, you said $425 million from just the state part. This is the colleges, universities.
No, 265.
265 million. Okay.
The total is 345.
Whether you're a police officer, a fireman, if you're in state government at the state level, the county level, or the municipality, you are a member of PERS, am I right?
Well, some have elected, others don't. Those that are are participating in PERS will be responsible for their share. Yes, sir.
I got you. And we're not talking about the contribution. We did go up on the employees' contribution part of this several years ago.
Yes, we did. And there's a little caveat. If you go up on the employees, you have to give them something, a day off. There's a little caveat there, yeah. And so rather than do that, they just went up on the employer's share, yeah. And that is, we hear about our salaries for state employees, but when 22% of your salary is being put in your retirement, that's not a bad deal. I don't know where else you're going to get that.
Well, and the culture changes, and we'll have this conversation coming up next as far as the hospital is concerned. But the world changes. The where we live, how we live, and things. There are just a multitude of different changes, and you have some changes in PERS too. And I would think that these changes that are happening here, socioeconomic changes, are happening in other states also. You got less people who are coming into, just like they don't want to go to work in the private sector, they don't want to go work in the public sector. And if that two things, retirement and benefits, are not there, you're probably going to have a hard time getting anybody to go into government work.
Well, you are correct. You are correct on that. But I know that we as legislators, and I know that the people over at PERS are really struggling. As you know, we went through a pretty bad last 12 months as far as the market. And as I always say, things could be worse, but they could have been a lot better also.
Yes, they could have. That's an understatement. All right, let me get this right. So the legislature really doesn't have anything to do with this. It's the PERS board, and they have the recommendation on the increases?
Yes, the PERS board brings a recommendation.
All right.
Then the legislature has to act on it.
And then the legislature after, but the PERS has got to make that recommendation. They have the recommendation. They just haven't officially brought it to the legislature yet?
Well,
do they do that in the form of a bill?
It would be a bill would be dropped at their request, yes.
The 13th check is in doubt, or is that anything on the table?
No, we haven't even, that has not even been brought up. I don't want my phones to blow up.
Tim in the Delta has already hit me on C-Spire text line and some others, but we're not talking about anything about the 13th check.
No, just right now, we're looking at trying to bolster up the system, and so that we can guarantee they're going to get a 13.
This deals with the appropriation. I want to leave this subject, but this deals with appropriation, so you have some time for them to do this, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And like I said, if it didn't get done this year, I would like to see some kind of resolve. The world, we've got a year or so. So
what is the age limit now on PERS when you leave state government as far as fully funded?
Now that you're hitting me with a number, I'm sorry, I do not know.
I think it's time to get somebody from PERS on. We'll talk.
But here's something I want you to think about. I just looked last week at the PERS
numbers.
Numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many people are over 100 years old that are drawing retirement in Mississippi?
2.
79.
Get out of here. 79 people.
Think about when they retired.
Get out of here. 79 people are over 100 years old drawing PERS in Mississippi alone?
That is, and the average age is 1.8, 100.8 years.
Jeez.
Now, it's not a large amount because they didn't. You understand? They weren't making it.
Yeah.
But it's there. You can verify it.
That is. Have they been checked to make sure they have not left Earth?
I'm not getting into that. I'm not going down that street.
Well, I'm just. I mean, we got to take another look at fried food because. Maybe we got the diet in Mississippi all wrong. If you got 79 people over the median age 108, and they're still drawing PERS.
That is correct.
If they drew from the age of 65, back then it was 65, I'm sure. So
I don't know if they had a year. After 25 years, they could come out or not.
That's true. That's true.
You realize that they've been drawing retirement a long time.
That is absolutely amazing. When we talk about things changing, Russ Latino in the Magnolia Tribune had a very good write-up on Mississippi hospitals, the good, the bad, the both sides of the perspective there. And one of the things that, and I've mentioned this before on the air, the hospital situation as far as culture in small towns has changed. We have so many people moving out of small towns. The job availability is not there. Some people are questioning why we as a public are supporting the public of the hospitals there, certainly if they're private and not public. But many of them are public, and why would the state have to put money into that? I guess the same reason we put money into the Jackson water system.
That is correct. You never want, when people have to travel so far for medical attention, strokes, etc., heart attacks. It's we should not put people in that position. We should have some kind of line of medical help. At least that's my opinion.
One of the things that this brought up, and John Read is my guest. John is the House of Representatives, the chairman of House Appropriation from Jackson County District 112. John, one of the points in here, and made a very good point, that we have a different world out there of culture with ambulatory services. I mean, you can go just about it. You go here in Jackson or Ridgeland or anywhere else in the state, most places in the state, within some of the cities, and you'll find where they are doing x-rays, where they are doing services outside the scope of the hospital, and then the hospital is not getting that business. And the hospital is there. You have fewer and fewer people who are staying overnight in hospital beds. So do we continue to try to fund them when there's competition out there? And does that not say that, look, to take up the slack of these hospitals that need to retool, should we not finally get rid of the con process and let competition take over?
Now, you put about 3 heavy questions right out there on us.
Take any of them and go with it.
Well, the CON deal, the CON process has been one that there's been debate back and forth on that, but it hasn't been able to get the votes to come out of committee to bring it to the floor. same way with the other two issues you brought. There's a lot of on both sides on this. I think it's more or less people are scared. They want stuff, but they're scared they're going to lose stuff.
I'm going to hold you over to the final segment here, give you the final word on any other bills that you might want to spotlight here. But here's one thing I think all of the people in the GOP need to start thinking about. This is the election year, and you have Brandon Presley breathing down the necks of the campaign trail. It's going to be a defining year for the GOP to stop being afraid of this and afraid of that and start doing some things that need to be done one way or the other, but may not play well as far as the next election coming up. We'll ask John next. DIC House Chairman of Appropriations John Read, final segment here, but continue, sir, on just your thoughts of any other important bills that are moving through your committee that you want to spotlight here.
Well, right now,
or anything else.
Well, I tell you, I worry about revenue. Now we're going to the tax bill's coming up. What route will we take on that? That could cut into some of the revenues that we kind of maybe want to. Everybody says there's plenty of money. I don't know. I always have that little doubt in back. I'm old. I have a little doubt in the back of my mind sometimes that money is maybe not what we think it is at this time. I just like to go slow. But the tax issue, the expanded Medicaid, that's something that there's parts of it I can live with. There's parts that I'm kind of apprehensive about. Then again, the whole take that Mr. Latino had on the hospitals changing the environment in the state of Mississippi. Well, it's changing in just about any avenue you go into, whether it be finance, anything. We're moving at such a fast rate that we just have. To me, we need to kind of sometimes slow down and smell the roses and try to make sure that we're going in the right path. But I want to say that, when we came up with this ARPA money, big deal was water and sewage projects throughout. And I'd like to throw this out that the Rural Water Association projects, they went through the Department of Health, and we got about $300 million. The maximum grant was $2.5 million, and there was 140 projects completed. And also then we had the municipality and county water grant program through DEQ, and they had $450 million was trotted. Mm-hmm. And there's $50 million put aside to anticipate match money. Cities and counties receiving more than $1 million got a 1-for-1 match. Those that was receiving less than, they got a 2-for-1 match. But that was only part of for the municipals and counties. Round 1 is over. Round 2, you have to have your application in by the 31st of this month. So there'll be another round in that and those projects. Also, in that second round with DEQ, the city of Jackson received about $35 million for waste and drinking water projects. Yep. I just want to let y'all know, plus in addition to some other things.
When you start looking at our growth pattern, we have, for the last 10 years, I think the story I saw was a compilation of collections for 10 years. We've continued to grow above and beyond even some expansions of government in the state from a 10-year total of revenue collected. What you're basically saying is, and I also saw some numbers that we'd have to have a pretty darn bad downturn to be anywhere near some trouble. It would have to be almost a depression instead of a recession.
Well,
the last time we went from some pretty good numbers to, I think we had a deficit. We drained all of our rainy day fund. I think we ended the year of $720 or $720 million, $30 million in debt. It's back when the last Democrat governor, by the way.
Well,
But I mean, it's something that nobody wants to think about.
I was there, and let me tell you
Were
what,
you?
it wasn't. I was vice chairman of appropriations back
Oh,
then
were you?
under Charlie Capps. And, you know, we come to Jackson $500 million down in the hole.
That's right.
And
That's
so,
right.
therefore, we're in a much rosier picture, but I have been on the other side, and I like it on this side better than the
Well,
other.
that's where experience makes you a little bit more cautious.
Well, I think that the leadership on both ends of the building and the governor's office,
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone has the same. They have the same goal, but it might be a little different route to take to get there. And so we all need to work.
What are your thoughts, real quickly, on the Speaker of the House deciding to call it quits after this year?
He'll be missed.
Well
He'll
said.
be missed.
Short and well said. John, it's always a pleasure, sir. Thank you. Would you pass on to Richard too? I'm going to give him a call today.
Well, I'm going to tell you what now. See, he got me in a doghouse. See, that's what happens when you trust somebody. You know what I mean?
Well, that's not good for somebody on education, is it? That's just terrible.
I think that's that Long Beach coming out in him. You know what I'm
Well,
talking
I'm also I'm a big fan of at least letting these schools do the year-round thing, because I think it's catching on everywhere.
It is catching. Matter of fact, my local school district has just voted it
You
in.
naysayers just need to pipe it down a little bit. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
John, thank you, sir. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you
News
for
is
having
coming.
me.